And that's the stuff where you just got to build it and you got to hate it and it's got to lose and then you just develop it.
It just so happened that we were doing a lot more front flips and a lot more back flips and getting a lot more airtime than we expected.
Yeah. And it took like 10 guys, 15 or 20 minutes to get it out.
Toppling Nightmare over was like punching Mr. Rogers.
Huge mammoth. On
this episode
of Behind the Battle.
All right, everybody, we're here with Jonathan Schultz from Huge. We're here with Ricky Willems and Team Mammoth. How's it going, Ricky?
Oh, it's going great.
Tell me about how you got started in robotics.
I was in college and I convinced them to let me build a robot for my senior project from engineering school. And that was, my first robot. It was kind of boring. It didn't work very well. Small, two-wheel drive, wedged vertical spinner. Just like everybody else. It's endgame, but it was yellow and like the disc was kind of shaped like a duck's head. So I called it Duck Yak because that was super cool. And it sucked. But that's what first robots do. So we showed up to the first event, immediately lost our 2 fights. But one of those fights was against Charles Bond with the 30-pound overhaul. And that was like the coolest thing. I showed everybody I knew this fight of me losing. There was some like blue on the disc and I was like, guys, look, I stole it.
I hit him.
And then it was right after that, it was like a few months later. We were just scheming because at the time I lived with my teammate and we came up with Huge the first time, designed it, kind of figured out how we might want it to work, and then it just took forever to actually get it to work. And the second event we ever showed up to was the first one that Huge came out to, and it got second place. And a lot of people walked up to me like, Huge is your thing now. Duck Yeah sucks, do Huge. And I was like, I know.
Ricky, tell me how this group of people got together doing robotics for Team Mammoth.
Stanley Black & Decker has a makerspace there that is intended for people to build cool projects. And I started building small robots, and I had this idea that maybe we could make it to BattleBots if we built something cool and ridiculous enough. And Audrey managed the makerspace there, so she was kind of the first person I was pulling in for like, hey, can you help with this, with that? Then I brought in Bryce after doing some small projects there and some small competitions, and Bryce went robot crazy again. He'd already been on BattleBots as part of Battle Royale with Cheese. Anna also worked closely with the makerspace there, so I pulled her in. Bryce pulled in Lou. Anna pulled in Matt to help with welding and design. I pulled in Lizzie to help with the graphics design, and I pulled in Courtney to basically help with everything and keep me sane while I was doing it. And it all just kind of spiraled out of a lot of us working together in the same place and all wanting to build crazy robots.
You guys had some pretty awesome fights last season.
Yeah, for a first time, it went surprisingly well. I had no idea what was going to happen, and I think that was a lot of the appeal of Mammoth to a lot of people. No one had any idea what was going to happen. Yeah, we came out 3-3, which is pretty good for a first-year team.
And fighting the good old Nightmare.
I've said this about 100 times, but Jim Smentowski is one of the main people that I looked up to as a kid with BattleBots, and fighting him was amazing, but toppling Nightmare over was like punching Mr. Rogers. It was it was so conflicting and so bittersweet, but I'm so glad to have had that chance. Last year was a hard year because I had hurt my hand, so everyone pitched in and did more work than I ever imagined asking them to do. It just worked out better than I could have expected.
The way Team Huge formed was I showed up at that first event with a 30-pound Huge, and it took me 9 months to build it. So I'd never asked myself the question of, can I assemble this and disassemble it quickly? Because the answer was absolutely not. It ends up finishing second place at the event, but that's by the grace of all of these nearby people who saw us struggling, came over to help fix it. And those are all the people who ended up on the team. So on the team right now is me, Peter, and Maddie, who were like the core team at that Motorama. On top of that is Alex Horn, Garrett Santolini, and Don Dorfler. And those were the builders who came over. And they're just like, this is cool and it's broken. Let me fix it for you. And I'm just standing off and I don't know, I just know the spinner doesn't spin. And they're the ones who then, troubleshoot. Like, okay, this is the problem. Let me do this. And they start disassembling it. I wouldn't trade them for any other team in the pits. Maybe other people show up a little more prepared or other people have, 30 years engineering experience, whatever. I wouldn't trade my team for anybody. You can't replace that they know huge, and that's worth so much.
What made you want to just go big? Like just go bigger than anyone?
It's a combination of things. To me, the easiest way to build something that'll get people interested and give you a pathway to success is to build something completely different.
Yeah.
Because we're all new at this. It's hard to become an expert at a tried and true design overnight, but I can be an expert at a design I came up with. This team of people here is the absolute expert on building a rotary lifter giant robot. No one is better at that than us. That gave us a window to define a new type of robot and design a way to surprise other competitors in a way that they just weren't expecting and a way that they hadn't prepared for, and give us a shot at beating tried and true veterans.
I think we really have to give Ricky props for being so innovative in that regard, because it's really easy, and I see this a lot in other competitors, that to make, a low to the ground robot with a lot of armor. And Ricky was kind of like, well, if we go really big, we won't need armor. There's nothing to hit. You don't need armor, right? So I think that Ricky really thought outside of the box in designing this. And I think that's part of the appeal for the crowd, and the fact that it actually kind of kicks butt is a bonus, right?
It was also so fun when we were building Mammoth V1 we were building it and just sort of talking amongst ourselves like, hey, what do you think will happen if we get put up against a horizontal spinner? And we were all just like, we don't know. Like, it was really exciting to just be able to take it out there and see what happens.
That is absolutely my favorite part. And it's one of my favorite parts of BattleBots in general, especially like the old Comedy Central days BattleBots, is putting robots against each other and you just have no idea what's going to happen.
Right. By 30 seconds into the fight, any planning that you had is, for the most part, null and void.
And that's what it's all about, right? Like, it's about coming up with something we've talked a lot about what's outside of the box, and like how can you come up with something that no one's ever seen before, and it's ridiculously effective, and it doesn't break the rules, and it looks awesome in the battle box.
That's why I advocate so strong for building little robots and getting practice in, because like I think somewhere in the order of like 60 fights driving something huge shaped. It would take 10 years to get that at BattleBots. And it's just about like getting your own understanding of your design. Because like, I point to Mammoth sometimes for some of the changes they've made. Like, it's just stuff you learn by building a robot that is shaped like Mammoth and driving it at something that's shaped like Bike Force. And it doesn't matter if it's this big or if it's the size of the room. When Ricky started bringing a little version of Mammoth with teeth on the rotating lifter to little events, and suddenly it was grabbing stuff and throwing it, and like, oh god, put that on the big one, like it's better. You can sit in CAD for 10 years staring at your CAD of Mammoth that you've never fought before and making it the most perfect, amazing CAD ever. But you don't know that you need claws until you go out there and you test it. And it's the same with Huge. Like the first version of Huge, the spinner was set like 6 inches back into the frame. And just by building it and fighting it and people kind of hitting it, I'm like, well, that's dumb. I can put the spinner at the front and now I get 6 inches more reach. And that's the stuff where you just got to build it and you got to hate it and it's got to lose. And then you just develop it over time.
It's time to talk about the fight with Mammoth and Huge. The way they collide, I don't know what it is, but Mammoth and Huge kind of just start to look like jelly.
Mammoth has a lot of pieces that are made out of the same stuff that Huge's wheels are made of. This UHMW, this very flexible, very strong plastic. And we want that to bend. We want that to flex on hits. It just so happened that we were doing a lot more front flips and a lot more back flips and getting a lot more air time than we expected. So all of those things that were supposed to flex a little bit ended up flexing a lot. We tried out a new weapon, an experimental weapon that was made out of the same stuff, right? That weapon is made out of plastic as well. Normally we run a steel weapon. But we knew we wanted that plastic because we knew we'd be able to take hits on it. The robot is designed to take hits and bend but not break. It's designed to have things go wrong without the fight ending and without us taking, a loss just because something isn't exactly the way we designed it.
The floppy mammoth trunk this year that they would run against spinners was like, it stands up to some abuse. They were saying of like, how can it do that? It's like, because he took Bite Force's old weapon motors and that's what runs the lifters now. I think it's 100 horsepower. Like the only reason I was sad he didn't run the solid flipper rather than the floppy one was that we would have gone at least 10 feet in the air. When we were kind of stuck like this, the pole was stuck under the wall. We were just in, exactly where we didn't want to be, which is stuck in the corner with Mammoth being able to like keep you in the corner. We were crammed down between the two metal supports, and it took like 10 guys, 15 or 20 minutes to get it out. The poles are a perfect example of it. Is if you design something correctly, no one even notices that it's working, because that would just be huge bouncing off the wall and then falling back in the arena. It's just like the side poles. I have my prop here with Tiny Huge, but like it has the side poles to land on, and people will be like, "What are those poles for? Are those there on the show?" And like, yeah, we land on them every fight, and you don't notice it. But we've never lost laying on our sided wheel, and that's why.
It's crazy that like engineering to the max to this level at BattleBots can sometimes come back down to a stick.
And that fight was made and broken by that stick wasn't 4 inches longer. That's why you can't control for every variable ever. And that's why, Mammoth killed us. That's BattleBots.
It couldn't have gone any better. Like that's how Ricky and Bryce designed Mammoth, was to fight Huge, I feel like, and be a spectacle doing it.
When Ricky and I went out to BattleBots to see his friends fight, we saw Huge, and we saw it in person fighting other robots, and we had no idea that it existed until it just rolled on up the ramp and into the battle box, and we're like, what is this thing? And I think really seeing that, and Ricky talking to some of the other builders really, lit that spark for him, where he was like, all right, we're in.
So Huge was kind of an inspiration?
Huge was an inspiration in a way that a lot of people don't expect it to be an inspiration. I knew the people that worked on it. I saw the process that they used to build Huge, and starting small and working their way up. And all of that told me that this is something that I can do. This is something my team can do. It wasn't so much see a giant robot, want to make a giant robot. It was see the fact that people that put in the time and build something different can make it onto this show and make an impact and make a splash.
But what a weird fight. Like, I really want to fight him again. I've fought little vertical spinners 100 times. I've fought lifters. I've fought things I'm used to.
Yeah.
And then you're standing there across the box from Mammoth, and you're like, I could do something differently, couldn't I?
Jonathan, this has been an awesome conversation, and we will talk to you very soon. Good luck.
Yeah, talk to you later. Thank you very much for having me.
This has been Team Mammoth.
Hey, been a lot of fun. Thanks.
Join us next time for more exclusive interviews on the Vex Robotics channel, and make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss a second of the action. Thanks for watching.